On our panel today will be our presenters and a few other folks. So we have Rod Diaz, the Chief Counsel. Next to him is Tisha Albert. She's the Director of Licensing. Bobby Pfeiffer, Licensing Manager. Lori Rizzo from RAMP. Jeff French, Director of Consumer Relations. Dale Horst, Director of Marketing. Oh, okay. Carl Jolly, Director of Regional Operations, if you have a question about stores. And Terry Lehigh Walsh from Store Operations as well. So first we're going to go through the questions that were submitted online, probably by some of you folks here, and then after that we'll get to the questions in the audience. How do we handle keg beer for outings and beverage carts on golf course? Rod.
I guess if the person who asked this question is here, is it your beer or is someone bringing beer in?
It's my beer.
It's your beer. All right. And you have a golf course license?
Yes.
All right. So if you are a retail licensee and have a golf course, you are allowed to let your patrons carry alcohol throughout the golf course, even though the golf course isn't licensed. So the fact that the keg is on the course isn't a problem, even though it's on portions of the course that are not licensed. It's not going to cause a problem for you. Same thing for beverage carts. Maybe 15 years ago, the legislature realized that golf courses are a different animal, and so they gave you that additional privilege that other licensees don't have.
Okay. How may I wholesale directly to local PLCB wine and spirit shops? Dale.
If you're a Pennsylvania limited winery or a Pennsylvania distiller, we have a program that you can apply to sell the products in 10 of our stores. You can pick the stores and you can deliver direct to the stores, or you have a choice of going through one of our distribution centers. If you want to submit it as a regular item or you want to put it on an SLO list, then you can contact SLO to do that. And we accept new products twice a year. In 16, it'll be in April, and it'll be in October.
Okay. Are there plans for restaurants to sell wine for takeout, as in the case of 6 packs of beer? Rod.
The ability to sell 6 packs and not to sell wine to go is legislative, so it isn't something that we could do by regulation. That would be up to the legislature.
Okay. How does one administrator handle multiple licenses and LID manage licensing and renewal process? Tish. Or Bobby.
With the new system coming, the PLCB Plus, what's going to happen is every license that we have on record when we go live with the system will get a specific access code. That access code, when you go in to register, will link a particular license to your account. So in an example where you may have 3 or 4 different licenses right now, you'll get 3 different access codes. When you go in to register, all 3 of those licenses will link to your account when you register. So you'll be able to renew, validate, file amendments or anything on a particular lid. What you'll have to do with PLCB Plus is when you log in, you'll have to select the license that you want to work with at that time.
Okay. Rod, can you speak about beer delivery within our license?
Sure. As you know, your restaurant or e-license does not give you the right to deliver beer. However, there is another type of license, a transporter for hire license, that does allow for the transportation of beer. And There seems to have been recent interest in that. As a restaurant or e-licensee, you can apply for and acquire one of these licenses. What's important to keep in mind is that the transaction has to occur before the beer leaves. In other words, you just can't put beer in like a truck and drive around and take orders, say in State College or something like that. That you've got to have get the order, presumably through credit card, maybe over the phone. And as a restaurant, you can only sell 2 6-packs or 192 ounces to go. On our web page, there is an advisory that will give you more information in a Q&A setting about the types of things you have to worry about. There's record-keeping requirements. You need to check ID to make sure the person's at least 21. You're strictly liable if that person is not 21. But it is an option if you're interested in acquiring a transporter for hire license.
Yes to food trucks, but no to beer trucks. Okay. Regarding online license renewal, how can payment be made if there is no organization or business credit card licensing?
You can use a personal credit card. With the new system, the Commonwealth is looking at implementing the ACH process. So hopefully in the near future, we will be allowing e-check or ACH to be used as well in the process, or personal credit card.
Okay. If open to the public, say for breakfast, can alcohol be available to members? Counselor?
Again, I'm going to assume that this is a club because it mentioned members.
Is that person here? Guess not.
All right.
We'll look at it online.
Club licensees can provide alcohol anywhere from 7 a.m. until 3 a.m. the following day, except Sundays, right? So if you're open for breakfast, you can have alcohol as long as it's after 7 a.m.
Sunday as well.
No, Sundays are different. No, clubs aren't open on Sundays. Yeah, sorry. Clubs, here, let me double check. Now you make me.
Yeah, are you a restaurant? Oh, it's a club, okay.
I think it's 9. Hold on.
Rod keeps a well-worn copy of the liquor code just for these occasions.
I think it's 10 or 11, I'm pretty sure.
It's 9 a.m. Go ahead. That's going to get 2. Yeah, no, it's Sundays are for a private club, a C. It's the rules are the same every day. They don't have special Sunday rules. It's 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. It's the restaurants that have the different rules on Sundays.
Okay. Sticking with Rod, what licenses are needed for hard cider production?
Is the person who asked that here? No. Cider is actually defined in the liquor code, and it's treated as beer so long as it has 5.5% or less alcohol by volume. So if that's what you're talking about, cider with less than 5.5%, it can be manufactured by a brewery. It's treated as beer. You would register the brand. You would distribute it like you normally would beer. In addition, limited wineries are given the additional privilege of making alcoholic cider as well. If it's over 5.5%, then it's considered to be a type of wine in Pennsylvania, and then you would need a limited winery license.
Okay. Where do limited wineries fall in relation to bar spending and free drinks of the liquor code? Oh, sorry. Where do limited wineries fall in relation to Article 13.53, bar spending and free drinks of the liquor code, either on the road or a storefront when giving free samples?
13.53, which we're pulling up here real quick, has to do with the giving of free drinks at retail premises. And limited wineries have their own sets of rules. When, limited wineries can sell at their primary location, they can sell at their satellite locations, they can sell at farmers markets, and they can sell when they're using their special wine permits, and they can give samples. And the rules are a little different depending on which of those privileges they're using. However, when they are at a retail license premise, then they are subject to 13.53, and then it's 4 ounces of wine. So if you're a limited winery and you're at someone else's restaurant giving away samples, you can give 1, and it's 4 ounces.
Okay. With a catering license, can the responsible officer assigned be sued if there is a problem?
I assume they can. We only regulate the liquor code. So when it comes to, and the liquor code is really about a licensee's relationship with us, with the Commonwealth, and what your liability is to us when you break our rules. The liability to other people because you broke the rules is something you would have to talk to a private attorney about. Presumably a personal injury attorney, because that's not something we're involved in.
Okay. Rod, can you address part-time employees and gambling? If an employee works 1 day a week, can they gamble in off days?
Yeah, there's nothing in the liquor code that addresses gambling. There might be, if by gambling you mean small games of chance licenses, there might very well be something there. But again, that would be a question for BLCE or for your county treasurer's office.
What was that? House rules.
Sure. One of our regulations states that if a club has, constitution and bylaws, violating those is a liquor code is a citable offense. So if it rises to the level of violating the Constitution or bylaws, you could get cited for it. If it's something less than that, like a house rule, you're probably not going to get in trouble with us, but you might get in trouble with the club.
Okay. Someone wrote in that they will be losing property to eminent domain. What do they need to do about alcohol and the licensing?
I'm not sure if this individual is still here. Typically with the eminent domain, you'd have to check with that municipality, but most times they'll take the license with the location. So in that case, the license is put in safekeeping. As far as the alcohol, you can take that back. You can attempt to take it back to the store or the beer distributor to see if they'll actually take it for return. Otherwise, you can keep it.
Okay. Small games of chance question, I think we dealt with sort of thoroughly. We also got a question about cleaning the beer lines. Why do they have to be cleaned weekly? When Sound Waves clean the lines for 8 weeks and flush them 2 months, why did they do that, and what would it take to amend the rules?
Beer lines. The frequency and the type of cleaning of beer lines is set forth by our regulations weekly. A few years ago, we were approached by a company which said that they could clean them just as well using a different system. And they provided us with a copy of a study that had been performed on the growth of bacteria on these lines after a certain period of time and comparing it to other methods of cleaning. We, in fact, then took that report, shared it with the state police, shared it with the Department of Health, who informed us that they thought the report was valid. And so the board amended its regulations to allow for people who are interested in cleaning the regulations differently than the way it's set forth, the hot water or the steam, to submit to the board a proposed method of cleaning and whatever information they have to demonstrate to us that it's going to work. And then we will review it, probably in conjunction with the Department of Health, which is what we did last time. And then the board will either say, yes, you can start using this method as well, or no, you're going to have to use the method that you've been using prior.
Okay. That concludes the questions that were submitted online. So, folks, now's your chance to ask a question. Please raise your hand. Someone will be around with a microphone. Please state your name, name of your establishment, your LID number if you know it, and where you're from. So, go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Kevin Lloyd. My company is Nittany Valley Distilling. I'm in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. I don't know my lid. I have two distillery questions to follow up to Mr. Diaz's talk that he did. Number one, is the off-site catering license available to a limited distillery also?
It is not.
Okay.
And that's statutory. They included the breweries, and when that language was put in back in 2013, there just weren't that many distilleries around.
And the second one, as you mentioned, that the limited winery people were able to offer their products for less than they offer to the state store system. Is that privilege available to distilleries?
It is not, and again, because your statute specifically says it has to be the same price. We can't amend statutes. The winery provision was in our regulations, so we could amend that one.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Again, licensing, legal, store operations, purchasing. Now's your chance. They're all here. So.
Hi, Jim McDonald from Warrior Lounge, Canton, PA. We'd like to purchase wine from a local winery. Can we buy direct from them and sell into our restaurant?
Yeah, it's licensed, a winery that's licensed by us?
Yes.
Yeah, they can sell directly to you.
They don't need a special permit or anything?
Nope, and they can sell it at lower prices.
Thank you.
Okay. Over here.
Hi, I'm Steve Zoran, and I'm an attorney in Harrisburg. Are there circumstances where a single individual can be an approved manager for two establishments that are in close proximity to each other?
They actually, for each licensed establishment, you have to have one board-approved manager. Was that your question?
Yeah, it was, but I had heard that you can have a single person be a manager for more than one establishment. Am I getting the wrong information?
Yeah, usually, well, I don't know of any situations where someone has been approved manager at two locations. Now, limited wineries can get together and have a single satellite location involving multiple limited wineries. And in that situation, you just need one manager for the whole business. So that may have been what you heard. Also, if, sometimes managers ask for permission to do something else, and then licensing will evaluate that request by looking at what hours they're able to devote to the licensed premises and what the other business is, but typically not another licensed business.
And we require a full-time manager at least 35 hours a week.
Hi, Donna from the Catholic War Veterans. 2540 is our LID. I was approached by one of our beer distributors to run a benefit for somebody that they are also running. They want to use the March Madness by doing a bracket type thing, and the people would buy into that, but we would not receive any profit from that. It would go totally to the benefits. Would that be legal, or is that small game of chance?
Generally speaking, any gambling is illegal in Pennsylvania unless you fall under one of the exceptions. Small games of chance is an exception. Tavern gaming is an exception. What constitutes gambling is something you typically need to ask a law enforcement official. I can tell you generally what they look for is, do you have to pay to play? Is there an element of chance? And is there a reward? And if those three things are there, then you very well may have gambling. But that's something we would not enforce. You would want to talk to, like I said, your local DA.
Okay. Thank you.
Mark Sapia, Anmar Enterprises. What is the procedure to have a CLA removed from a license?
You write in to our office, or to licensing, but to our office, indicating what provision you want removed. And it will depend on why the CLA was put there. For example, if the conditional licensing agreement was one where the original owner had to sell it to a bona fide third party, and you weren't involved in whatever the facts were that led to the CLA, it may be reviewed positively. If it's a condition that would affect the community, we typically would be interested to hear what the community's input is on that. So, for example, if it had been a nuisance bar, we would want to know what the local law enforcement has to say about that. And then we would let you know whether we're favorable or not.
It goes to the board.
Yes.
Anyone else?
And final decision actually for an elimination or modification of a conditional licensing agreement is presented to the board.
Terry Stokes, Redline VFW. I have a question regarding the background checks. What is the red flag on an individual that may have a record or whatever that would be substantial and would jeopardize the license?
That's good. You're a club license, so they're only going to be looking at you at renewal time when you give the new officers and the new manager. Generally speaking, if it is a felony, if it is a trade-related or two trade-related misdemeanors within the last 5 years, those are the types of things that trigger a response from licensing. So it's going to depend on when the conviction was, what it was, and how long ago. As a club, if licensing ultimately decides that that's a person that should not be associated with the license, they'll then ask you to divest that person. It's a little different when it's a restaurant license and there's an ownership interest, but the process is pretty much the same.
Anyone else? Sir?
My name is James Haller, and I was with the VFW that has closed now. But what my question is, when they renewed the license, my name was still on the under your jurisdiction that I was still active. and the other guy was pending. So why did it take a year and a half for that to come about? I called the LCB and they told me it's still being looked at. That's all I got from them.
Do you actually have there's a pending application currently?
Not now, because they surrendered license because they got a fine and didn't pay the fine. So they went defunct, the VFW.
All right. How about after the seminar or after the question and answer, I can get your information and I can review it.
Oh, sorry. Lori Lennox. I own the Bowery, LID 31443. And I don't have my password to renew my license. I don't know if one of my grandchildren deleted the email. And how do I go about getting another password?
Is this in the current system? You're trying to renew it right now?
Yes.
What you can do is you can see me after the question and answer. Give me your information, and I can either call you with the password.
I filled out a card already and gave it to one of the other girls at the desk.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, that'll
So
work.
That's good enough?
Yeah, we'll take care of it for,
Okay.
and I can either call you, email you, and whatever with the information that you need.
Okay, I'm getting a little nervous. It's already March 1st, and this
okay.
is way late for me. Thank you.
Any other questions? Liz? Down here?
Yes, Greg Colbert, Richard Hershey, Vietnam Veterans Post in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. If we rent our facility, our banquet area, same question the lady over here asked, can that group have a bracket type thing, which has nothing to do with us?
Kind of the same answer, which is to the extent that there is illegal gambling going on, that's something you would have to ask your district attorney. However, you will not be able to defend, let's say it's illegal activity, by saying, oh, it was someone else. As a licensee, as a club or a restaurant, you are ultimately responsible for what's going on your facility. So that's something you might want to run past, ask them, what's your authority to do this?
My name is Joe Newsom. I'm with one of the local VFWs in Cumberland County. It's my understanding that a liquor license applies to a particular premise. However, in my particular case, we not only have a building, we have a basement, we have an office, and we have a plot of ground that it sits on. And I'm not sure the extent to which that license covers. I've heard the term used, footprint. My question is, what agency or which department do I communicate with to try to find out what my legal footprint is? And if I want to seek a change, how do I go about doing that?
You can actually see me after the conference. I can get your information, but what we can actually look to determine what room areas, what floors that you have currently licensed, and then depending on what your change is, it may be determined that you need to file an extension application if you're adding or possibly deleting some areas. So I can help you afterwards.
I'm Matt English, Holiday Inn Harrisburg Hershey. I believe our LID is 45154, but don't quote me on that. Two questions. One is for operations. What is the policy on returns?
Licensee returns are made if the business is closing, if it's a major return, a large amount of product. If it's a mistake made by one of our employees, if they pack the wrong thing, if they take the wrong thing on an order, we will take it back, no questions asked at the register.
Just for consideration, I know with our business, certain catering events that we have, we'll have clients with specialized needs, and we'll have to bring in products that we typically don't have. And it's tough sometimes to gauge. So we could bring in 2 cases of a particular product. They only use 1 case, and then we're kind of stuck with it. And I know in the past we have had some success returning, but other times we have not. So just for consideration.
We look at every return from a licensee on a case-by-case basis.
Second question I have is for licensing. If hypothetically we would hold an event where we would do a tasting or a wine festival or a beer festival, what's the process to de-license part of the business? Because I know in certain banquet space you can't have 2 licenses, especially if say it's the vineyards want to sell product, and that's a big catch for them to be able to do these type of events.
Just in order to de-license, you just simply need to send in a letter and advise us the date of the event and what areas you actually want deleted.
And then do you have to notify, is there any other correspondence to relicense it, or is it just a temporary de-license?
What we'll do is in the same letter that we're approving your de-license, we'll do it for the certain time period, and it'll automatically be licensed after the event's over.
Thank you.
Nicole Good from the Phillipsburg Elks. Our LID is 684. I also had 2 questions. The first one being, we've just built a pavilion onto our property. Now with our new patio extension, we did have to add to our license. Do we need to continue that with the pavilion for events, even with a club license and a off-premise catering?
Repeat the question again. You already have it licensed, the patio?
The patio was, but we just built a pavilion. Do we need to extend on our license for the pavilion?
Patio's on the pavilion. Is the patio on?
The patio's attached to the building, yes. The pavilion's off of our golf course.
So it's already licensed. If it's already licensed, then you don't need to do anything further.
The pavilion is not.
But it's on the patio.
How far apart? Are
No, it's not on the patio. It is off of our golf course.
It's a different. It's an area that's not currently licensed, right?
Correct.
So, then you would, well, what kind of license do you have?
We have a club, but we have an off-premises catering.
You have a regular club license, not a golf course license.
Correct.
All right.
So
you would want to extend the license like you did the previous time.
Okay. And my second is, can we offer like, we have a lot of home brewers. Are we allowed to offer like a class under like a special occasions permit?
It depends. What would happen as part of this event?
They would just come and teach, basic steps of how to.
Right.
Not use anything for retail, but nonetheless to sample and teach people how to brew more or less at home.
You can, anybody in Pennsylvania can make up to 200 gallons of beer, homebrew, without getting a license, and use it at festivals or for tastings. The key, though, is there can't be a cost associated with it, because if there is, it becomes a sale. And once it becomes a sale, then you need a license for that.
So we can host that. We just can't sell it out of our establishment.
No one can, you can host it, but there can't be a charge for where you might run into a problem is you're hosting it, oh, I want to go sample some of the beer. Well, no, you got to buy a ticket first.
Okay.
Now you've run into a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Crystal. I'm from Route 15 Beverage Express in Dillsburg. And my question for you is, if we get a lot of people that ask for beer donations, we don't always do that, obviously, but if somebody wanted to take beer that we donated to a golf course that was licensed, would that be allowed?
It's properly registered and it's just your normal stock. You just chose to donate 2 cases or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, the golf course is liable for anything that may happen, if they gave it to minors, but that's fine otherwise.
Hello, Alberto Flores, Burt's Bottle Shop in Millersville, PA. LID 19713. Couple of questions. One, is there a provision in the code for offsite storage? We have a relatively small shop, and let's say I want to start stockpiling stuff for aging, some barley wines and imperial stouts. Is there any provisions for that, or would it all have to be kept on premise the entire time?
Wait, what type of license did you say?
R license.
You have an R license?
Yes.
Yeah, there is no off-site storage provision in an R for an R license. There are for some other licenses, but not for an R.
Okay. Is there a minimum age for employees to be able to stock shelves with beer?
That's kind of an interesting question. The liquor code, I'm going to pull it up here real quick, basically says if you can't allow someone under 18 to serve any alcoholic beverages, and no one under 16 can be working there at all. Okay. So that would suggest that someone who's 19 could be stocking, or someone arguably, who's a minor. But the Department of Labor also regulates people who are under 21 who are working. So you would want to double check with them to make sure that they're okay with it. Okay. And there's also a crimes code provision. But typically they defer to whatever Department of Labor says.
One final question. It might piggyback off the last question. If we were to donate like a basket to a nonprofit with beer in it, is that legal? And is there a maximum value that you could have on that? And could you
is that a specific? Do you have a specific thought in mind, or is that just kind of a general question?
Yes. There's a nonprofit women's shelter in Lancaster, and they have a yearly fundraiser with some silent auctions. So I was going to put together a basket wrapped up with 12 different beers in it that they could auction off.
Why don't you, once we're done, why don't you write in to us so we can give you something in writing?
Okay.
It's really going to kind of depend on the particulars. There's probably a way you can do it, but again, we're not the Enforcement Bureau. That would give you a certain amount of comfort in case someone else challenged it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my name's James Haller again, and it's about the VFW. They said the LCE came into the establishment and told me that the banquet room is attached to the bar. It's since it's in the same building there, if you hold any events in the banquet room, there is no smoking in the bar and the banquet room while people are running the banquet room. Is that true or not?
Another set of laws that applies to you that we have no authority over is the statewide smoking ban, the Clean Air Act. So you would have to talk to the Department of Health about that. There's the general rule of no smoking indoors, and then there are certain exceptions to that, but we don't regulate that. That's something you would have to ask the Department of Health.
But the LCE said that it is a smoking premises in the bar area, and then they said that you could not do it when you have an event in the back room, in the banquet room, a party or what have you.
Those provisions are on the Department of Health website under the Clean Indoor Air Act. Whatever rules they have set, they're online for you to see. And I do believe you are correct. That is one of the rules that I do remember seeing. But it's not us.
Any other questions?
Robert Hagee,
Be Kind Winery, 65330. PLCB Plus, off-site permit, I think it's a 13B when you're going on the road and doing an event. Is that going to be available online?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so are we gonna have to scan in the maps and all of that and send them in?
No. From my understanding, just from the testing that we have done, you do have to register with your access code. Once you register, you'll go online with your name and password, and based on your license type, you will be able to file for that special wine permit. I do think with the special wine permit, and don't quote me on this, but I do think you do have to upload plans.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And the
then-
fee is automatically charged, the dates are captured.
Okay, very good. Now, we've gotten some people that invite us to events and whatnot, and some of them ask us to send in, while it's paper, to send in the PLCB, the 13B, to them, and they mail it in to the PLCB. Are they supposed to be allowed to do that, or is it supposed to be filled out by us and sent in to you by
With
us?
PLCB Plus, you would have to give them access to your account for them to do it. So once we go live in May with PLCB Plus, you'll be doing it, or your representative, or whoever you give access to your account to.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Kendrick, also with Be Kind Winery. I just had a question about what are the options of an off-site storage permit for a limited winery? Is it just an area that you have bonded and insured, and is it like a smaller version of getting a site approved for sales?
Do you guys have?
Is she selling or storing?
No, she's storing.
Your last statement said for sales. Is this for storage or storage and sales?
I'm just looking at storage.
Storage, okay.
Yes.
There's nothing that says the board approved location, they have to.
They have 2 spots, right?
sell.
Yeah, you get 2 storage locations. What we're trying to figure out is whether the legislature put any kind of physical requirements other than whatever area you designate. It simply has to be secure, and no one other than your employees may have access to that facility.
So does it have to be insured and bonded and approved by like a PLCB official?
We have no insurance requirements generally, so you don't need that. Bonding is not something that's done at the state level. It is sometimes done at the federal level because of taxes. So there's no requirement from us. You may have a TTB requirement for that. We simply require that you limit access to your people and that you can't sell from that storage facility. And
Sure.
that's basically it. You can have up to 2 of those.
You can have up to 2 of those?
Yes.
Excellent.
And that's not counted against your 5 board-approved locations. Those are
Okay.
separate.
There are areas that are heavily populated with markets that you can go to, but for us, we're in Clearfield, which is about a 3-hour haul from here. So to haul wine down to here on a regular basis becomes pretty tricky. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Fran O'Brien, lawyer, non-licensee. Will it be possible to initiate a new application for transfer or for a new license with PLCB Plus?
Yes.
Would I have to create my own account, or would I have to log in as each of my individual clients with their password?
To create a new record, you would have to register. But Fran, if you're already registered for other licensees, you would sign in, and you could do a new license, or you could do a transfer from there. That would link that record to you.
Okay.
For a new or transfer.
Good, thank you. And finally, once you get into, we'll call the application, the transfer process, will we be able to upload all the documents, and will you no longer require original signatures on the forms that we're submitting?
That's correct. And depending on your type of transfer, if you're doing an intermunicipal transfer and you need a municipal resolution, you would be able to upload that resolution at the time of filing. We don't need, through PLCB Plus, the current documentation that you're required to send in. It's more limited, and we take that out to the analysts in the field that will come and review those required documents. What's going to happen, Fran, is when a transfer is filed for or a new application is filed for, there's a letter that gets created and emailed, and that letter will tell you what information you need to have available when our field people get in touch with you for a meeting. But only certain documents would be required at the time of filing. And one of those would be a municipal resolution. And you can upload that document.
Bobby, could you maybe explain how to upload a document to PLCB Plus, at least the way it is now? Or the way it will be?
Well, you'd have to have a document ready. You could scan it or email it to yourself and save it to your desktop. And then when you get into PLCB Plus, you go through a question and answer scenario, and if a document is required, there's an upload button, and you push the upload button, and it allows you to browse your documents wherever you're keeping them. You might keep them on your desktop, on your C drive, wherever you keep them, and it's going to allow you to click on it and import it or upload it, and it automatically attaches.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. If you do have a question, oh wait, sorry. Yep.
Hi, Karina Warner, Buddy Boy Winery, Duncannon, 65015. Question, you allow us 100 permits a year for off-site, setting up for wine tastings and that. How can you get more?
You'd have to go talk to your legislators. It was 30 until a few years ago, and they moved it up to 100. But it's statutory.
Any other questions? Okay, if you have any questions that you weren't able to ask, we have cards on the table outside the auditorium. Please fill one out and hand it in to one of our folks. We'll get an answer back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to thank our panelists for participating. Hopefully you found it informative. And have a good day. Drive safely.